Let's talk about integrations. This is one of the words you will hear over and over again in low-code and no-code tools, but it often feels vague. What is integration really? And more importantly, how do you actually build one inside Langflow so your agent can connect to other apps and get things done? Let's unpack it step by step. So what is integration? Integration is how two systems communicate. It is a way they talk to each other. And for AI agents, it is their way of talking to other apps. And unlike us, they don't need coffee to stay awake during the conversation. I'll give you a few examples. Like when your AI agent notices a new row in Google Sheets and then it automatically creates a task in your project management tool like Trello, that is integration. When your AI agent sees a customer payment in Stripe and it updates your CRM instantly, that is integration. Or when you log into an AI assistant and it reads your Google Calendar to schedule meetings, and that is integrations too. So these are just a few examples. There are several ways how an integration can happen, but most integrations rely on just a couple of common methods, and they are APIs and webhooks. And also these are the main ways how apps and or systems talk to each other, and also they are one of the easier places to start, so let's begin here. Let's start with the simplest form, API. So we make HTTP requests to call API endpoints. Let's say system A makes a request to system B and system B replies with data. So in the simplest terms, an API, application programming interface, allows two different systems to communicate with each other. It is a method for one system to ask another system for information or to perform a task. An API endpoint is like a door into an app, and the HTTP request is our knock. It's how we ask for data or give instructions. Door equals endpoint and knock equals request. Every app like Google Sheets, a Trello, a weather service, or Stripe exposes an API. So you can think of the API as a set of doors. Each door is called an endpoint, and it gives you access to something very specific. For example, if you knock the weather door or the weather endpoint, it shows today's weather. Or if you knock on the add task door or the add task endpoint, it creates a new Trello task. So different doors, different actions. Another common method is webhooks. So webhooks are event-driven. Instead of you constantly checking an API, they only notify you once something specific happens, like a doorbell that rings only when someone is at the door. So two things I've discussed here, API and webhook. They both rely on the same underlying web technology, which is HTTP. In practice, many apps use both together. Webhook, it tells you something changed, and API, it tells you to fetch full details if needed. So APIs are general purpose. They can read, write, update, and delete. Webhooks are event-driven. They only notify you once something specific happens. APIs are pull. You go and ask for the data, like pulling today's weather from a weather service. Webhooks are push. The app notifies you automatically when something happens, like an e-commerce site, pushing you a message the moment a purchase is made. Each has its place, but to keep things simple and beginner-friendly, this tutorial will focus mostly on API integrations. Why APIs, you may ask? Well, they are the most common and widely supported way to connect to apps. They let your AI agent ask for data or send instructions whenever you need it. They are easier to test and debug than webhooks, which require setting up a server to receive incoming events. When people say integration, they usually mean one of a handful of patterns. Let me show you what those look like in practice. Most of your work in Langflow will be API plus authentication plus transformation. That's really the backbone of integration, linking tools and services into your agent in a way that is both secure and meaningful. First, the API is what actually connects you to another app. Second, most APIs don't just let anyone in. You usually need an API key, an OAuth token, or some kind of secret to authenticate yourself. And third, once you get the data, you often needed to transform it, meaning parse, clean, and structure it so your flow can actually use it effectively. So here is the most basic flow you can start building in Langflow. Currently, there is just 4 simple blocks here: chat input, prompt template, a language model, and chat output. I'm using OpenAI's GPT-4 or Mini here, and right now there's no integration. It's just the model alone. So let's test it. I'll ask, what's the current price of Apple stock? And the model says, sorry, I can provide real-time data, which makes sense. The model on its own doesn't have live data, and that is exactly where integration comes in. In the next part, I'll show you how we can plug in real APIs so the flow can actually fetch the latest Apple price and even update my Notion. So this is a basic stock tracking agent. Unlike the first flow, this one has integrations. It can pull real-time stock prices, read market news, and of course use the LLM to make sense of all. Now imagine you track your investments in Notion, and the columns like closing price, percent change, date, and market updates. Instead of typing those in manually, the agent can handle it. Here's how. So I am using the Composio component. Composio basically streamlines API access and authentication, so I don't have to hardcode tokens or build custom connectors. It gives me ready-made tools for Notion, like read table, updating rows, and so on. On top of that, I've added an HTTP request tool so that the LLM can dynamically call APIs, plus a news reader tool for headlines and market context. The chat input still takes my query, and then the prompt template helps guide the agent on how to use the tools properly. So when I say, update today's snapshot on my investments, watch what happens. So let's check the results. All the columns in my Notion are now updated with real-time data. The closing price, the percent change, date, and everything's there. And also under the market updates column, the agent even analyzed the news and added a short explanation of the day's fluctuations. So it's not just raw data, it's context, automatically written into my workplace. So let's break down what actually happened here. First, we can see the agent calling the make API request tool. And then the URL it hits is Yahoo Finance, and the stock ticker is pulled directly from my Notion table. The request goes through status code 200, which means success, and the full stock data is returned. Next, the agent triggers the search news tool, and here we can see a list of articles coming back, plenty of headlines and market updates and company news. That's a lot of raw information for the model to process. But the LLM is built to read through it and extract what matters. Finally, after processing all that, the agent pushes the results back into Notion. If we look now, every column has been updated with real-time numbers, and under market update, we've got a short summary that explains the day's fluctuations based on the news. So everything looks good here, but what if you actually want some analysis? Since the agent is connected to Yahoo Finance and the news as well, it can handle that too. Let's say, what's the volatility of Tesla over the last 6 months? And here it comes. Full breakdown with the news articles that explain why the stocks have been moving the way it has. And maybe another one, let's try another one. Summarize analyst ratings for Tesla. And again, it gives me a clean summary with sources right there. So basically, it's not just updating data, the agent can reason over it, pull in context from the news, and give you insights in real time. Now let's talk about Composio in Langflow. Composio is basically an integration layer that makes it really simple to connect your AI agents with external apps and services. Instead of manually setting up authentication or dealing with API keys, Composio takes care of that process for you. In fact, it supports over 3,000 different integrations. including popular tools like Notion, Google Drive, Slack, and many more. That means you can quickly expand what your Langflow agents can do without having to write complex authentication flows yourself. For a deeper dive into everything Composio offers, I highly recommend checking out their documentation. But for now, we'll focus on how to use it directly inside Langflow for our demo. Now let's integrate Notion into Langflow using Composio. First, I will create a new project in Composio and set up the config. And here, Composio offers two options to choose from: OAuth and API key. OAuth is best for secure user-level access in production, whereas API key is simpler and great for quick setups or personal projects. So for this demo, we will use the API key method. That means our next step is to grab an API key from Notion and paste it into Composio. Let's go ahead and retrieve that key from Notion. Inside Notion, I'll head to the settings and open the connections section. From here, I will create a new connection and choose the page I want to give access to. Once that is set up, Notion generates an API key. I'll copy that key and paste it into Composio. Now, let's get back to Langflow. I will save this API key as a variable. This makes the setup cleaner and easier to reuse later. With everything in place, let's go ahead and test this integration. Now let's test the integration. I will add a new Composio component with the Notion API and go through the authentication. Once that is complete, we can see the connection was successful. Here we can see the available tools listed, which means our agent can now start using Notion directly from Langflow. And that is essentially how you can integrate external apps into Langflow using Composio, which is a very straightforward way to get access to powerful integrations without having to deal with complex authentication steps. So, to sum up, in this tutorial we walked through the basics of integrations and APIs and how an agent in Langflow can use Composio to connect with external apps and real-time data. This is actually a core component in the stocks agent I demoed previously, which illustrate the ability to pull in data and interact with external services, which is something that makes agents very powerful. Of course, this is just the tip of the iceberg, but I hope it gives you the foundation to start building your own integrations in Langflow. I hope you found this video helpful and that it gave you a clear starting point for your projects. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more tutorials. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.